In the darkest corners of the Orion arm, where the stars flicker like ancient secrets and the void whispers of untold dangers, a legend was forged. A name that would echo across galaxies' Arion soul. Once a mere scrap scavenger, struggling to survive in the decaying slums of Zerath Prime, an industrial wasteland orbiting a dying star, Arion's life was anything but extraordinary. Raised in the shadows of his mother, a brilliant scientist who vanished mysteriously when he was just a child, he was left to navigate a ruthless world where only the strongest survived. But the cosmos, as it often does, had a different fate in store. For Arion, destiny was about to unfold in a way no one could have foreseen. What do you think of Arion's journey so far? Drop your thoughts and theories in the comments. I'd love to hear your take on what's to come. One fateful night, as the neon glow flickered dimly in the suffocating alleys of Zerath Prime's underworld, a cloaked figure emerged from the shadows, his presence like a chill wind against Arion's weary bones. The man's steps were deliberate, echoing against the grimy walls, as if the very air around him bent to his will. He introduced himself as Lord Malakar, a name whispered in fear among the elite. A high-ranking noble of the Celestial Syndicate, a galactic organization known for its influence, power, and ruthless ambition. What Malakar said next was enough to freeze Arion in place. He claimed to be his long-lost uncle. A nobleman, with riches beyond Arion's wildest dreams, offering a life of comfort, luxury, and unimaginable power. All Arion had to do was retrieve a single artifact, an ancient relic hidden deep within the forsaken vaults of Vexar 9, a desolate and abandoned planet, forgotten by time, and located on the very edge of the known galaxy. It's a simple job, Malakar had said with a thin smile, his eyes gleaming with hidden agendas. A relic of no use to you, but of immense value to me. Desperation gripped Arion like a vice. The promise of a new life, a chance to escape the endless torment of Zerath Prime, was far too tempting. He agreed without hesitation, even as a part of him questioned the strange encounter. But he had no choice. The cruel grip of poverty, the haunting memories of his vanished mother, and the gnawing sense of worthlessness left him no other option. Arriving on Vexar 9, Arion found himself in a decaying wasteland. The planet was a barren husk, its surface littered with the ruins of forgotten civilizations and the remnants of a long-lost war. He navigated its crumbling corridors, his senses heightened, the weight of the task bearing down on him. The relic was buried somewhere deep within the forsaken vaults, hidden behind layers of traps and ancient technology. And the silent sentry droids, long dormant but still lethal, haunted the dark corridors, their cold, mechanical eyes waiting for an intruder to cross their path. But nothing could prepare Arion for what he would find. There, in the heart of the vault, stood the artifact, an object like no other. A crystalline construct, pulsing with an eerie, hypnotic blue light. It hummed softly, resonating with a power that seemed almost alive. The Celestian Core, a relic so ancient, so potent, that it was said to hold the secrets of the universe itself. For a brief moment, Arion stood mesmerized, captivated by its beauty, its power, its mystery. It was as though the universe itself had slowed time to let him gaze upon it. But before he could even reach out to touch it, the ground beneath him trembled violently. The walls of the chamber shifted, and the air grew thick, charged with an unbearable weight. A trap. The moment his hand closed around the core, the vault door slammed shut with an earth-shattering crash. The temperature plummeted. A suffocating energy began to fill the room, choking the very life from his lungs. The walls seemed to close in, and his heart raced. Betrayed, left to die in this forsaken place, Arion fought the panic clawing at his chest. With no other options and his vision fading, he clutched the Celestian Core tightly to his chest. "Please," he whispered, "help me." And then, the universe answered. What do you think will happen next? Do you believe Arion's wish will lead him to a new destiny, or is there a darker force at play here? Share your thoughts. I am curious to hear your theories and what you think this mysterious relic might mean for Arion's future. A blinding surge of energy erupted from the Celestian Core, a violent explosion that shattered the vault's ancient walls with an earth-shaking roar. Arion was flung from the epicenter, tossed into the vastness of space as if he were nothing more than a scrap of debris. He braced himself for the cold, the void, the inevitable embrace of death. But instead of the blackness of oblivion, he was engulfed by something far more unimaginable, a swirling vortex of radiant stardust, as though the very fabric of the universe had parted to reveal a hidden realm. Time and space bent and twisted around him. Within this cosmic maelstrom, a deep, resonant voice echoed through his mind, ancient, powerful, yet strangely familiar. You have freed me, mortal. I am Vaku's, guardian of the Celestian Core. 3 wishes I grant thee, but heed my words. Power is never without consequence. The voice reverberated in his soul, sending waves of energy through his body. Arion could barely grasp what was unfolding before him, his senses overwhelmed by the sheer force of the experience. Every fiber of his being hummed with the power of the core, yet something told him this was only the beginning. With his heart racing and his mind spinning, Arion's instincts took over. His first wish, simple, born from desperation, was to return home, alive. Home. The place he had tried so desperately to escape. Yet it was all he could think of, the only anchor he had left in this cosmic maelstrom. In an instant, the vortex collapsed around him, and Arion was thrust back to Zerath Prime. His feet slammed into the cold, hard surface of the planet. He was alive, but the energy of the Celestian Core still pulsed through his veins. The artifact, now dim in his hands, felt eerily dormant, as if waiting for something, perhaps for the other 2 wishes. But no sooner had Arion stumbled to his feet than he felt the weight of eyes upon him. A figure stood before him, tall and imposing, eyes burning with unbridled greed. It was Malakar, his so-called uncle, but no longer the noble figure Arion had once imagined. You fool, Malakar hissed, his voice dripping with venom. That core belongs to me. The noble's eyes gleamed with a twisted hunger, the truth of his intentions finally revealed. Before Arion could react, Malakar snapped his fingers, and in a flash, a squad of crimson-armored enforcers materialized around him. Their exosuits were sleek, deadly, and a far cry from the broken streets Arion had come from. In a blur of motion, Arion was struck down, beaten into submission, his body bruised and battered. Shackles clamped around his wrists and ankles, and before he knew it, he was thrown, unceremoniously, into the cold, metal confines of a Syndicate warship's cargo hold. No longer free. A prisoner once more. But as the ship soared into the depths of space, a strange, inexplicable shift occurred. In the quiet corners of his mind, Arion heard her soft, musical voice, whispering in the echoes of his consciousness. It was faint, but it grew clearer with each passing moment. The image of a beautiful elven warrior began to form in his thoughts. She appeared like a vision of celestial grace, her skin a deep, vibrant violet that shimmered with an ethereal glow. Her silver-white hair cascaded like moonlight, flowing effortlessly in the imaginary winds of his mind. Sharp, elegant features framed her face, with high cheekbones and piercing eyes that glowed faintly, twin orbs of endless mystery. Her pointed ears, a mark of her otherworldly nature, seemed to hum with ancient knowledge. She was no mere apparition, she was power incarnate, a being forged from the very forces that governed the stars themselves. Her armor, though minimal, radiated an aura of deadly elegance. Dark, intricately designed leather and metal pieces adorned her lithe form, strategically placed to provide protection while showcasing her fluid grace. A bra-like top and a loincloth-style belt with a metallic buckle highlighted her divine, yet fierce appearance. Despite the seeming simplicity of her attire, every piece of her armor carried the weight of a storied history, a reminder of the untold power she wielded. This being, this divine warrior, was Vaku's. Her presence filled the air around him, an unseen force that seemed to envelop him in both comfort and fear. Vakus, the guardian of the Celestian Core, was not simply a voice in his head. She was something ancient and powerful, a being who had waited eons to be freed from the Core's prison. "You stand at the crossroads of your fate, Arion soul," she whispered, her voice both a warning and an invitation. "You have called me forth, and now you must choose. The Core is yours to wield, but remember, the price of power is not easily paid." Arion's heart raced, uncertainty clouding his thoughts. Was this a dream? A hallucination? Or was he truly hearing the voice of a god, the one who now held the key to his fate? One thing was clear, the journey he had embarked on had only just begun. And the consequences of his wishes of freeing Vakus would ripple through the very fabric of the universe itself. What will Arion's next wish be? Will he seek revenge on Malakar, or will he try to harness the full power of the Celestian Core? And what role does Vakus play in his destiny? Leave your thoughts below. Let's dive into this cosmic adventure together. Imprisoned aboard the dreaded warship Oblivion's Fang, Arion realizes the truth. The truth was far darker than Arion had ever imagined. Malakar was no nobleman. He was a warlord, a ruthless tyrant who had spent decades haunting the Celestian Core, believing it to be the key to godlike power. The relic, it seemed, was not just an artifact, no, it was a weapon of unimaginable potential. Malakar had carefully cultivated his position within the Syndicate, his ambition and thirst for control driving him to seek out the Core's power at any cost. And now, with Arion imprisoned and the artifact in his grasp, Malakar was on the precipice of unlocking its ultimate secrets. But Arion, bound and broken, was no longer the frightened scavenger who had wandered the slums of Zerath Prime. The Core had changed him. He could feel its power flowing through his veins, not as a force to be feared, but as a force to be controlled. His mind, once clouded by desperation, was now sharp and clear, guided by the whispers of Vakus, the guardian of the Core, who had imbued him with an ancient understanding of the relic's true power. It was time to act. Arion's second wish was not for personal gain, nor for revenge. It was a call to arms. With sheer willpower and an astute, calculated mind, he summoned the power of the Celestian Core. In that moment, the ship's automated defense systems, which had once been Malakar's loyal soldiers, were suddenly overridden by an unseen force. The control systems that had kept Arion captive, the cells that held countless others in bondage, all came under his command. A surge of power coursed through the ship, turning the tide of battle before it had even begun. The cell doors exploded open with deafening force, and the prisoners within, exiled warriors, dissidents, former Syndicate operatives, and those who had been forgotten by the galaxy, rallied behind him. Their eyes burned with the desire for freedom, their fists clenched in defiance of the tyrant who had kept them imprisoned for so long. They were no longer bound by fear, they were bound by Arion's resolve. What followed was nothing short of legendary. Blaster fire echoed through the cold steel of Oblivion's Fang, each shot a spark of rebellion. Explosions rocked the ship's hull as the Uprising spread like wildfire, the Syndicate's once imposing grip crumbling under the weight of their defiance. The sound of combat was deafening, but amid the chaos, Arion led the charge, cutting through the enemy forces with unmatched precision. He was a different man now, his mind and body synchronized with the Core's vast power. In the heart of the warship, the battle raged on. The ship's command bridge, a towering structure of steel and glass, became the stage for a final confrontation between Arion and Malakar. Plasma blades clashed in a furious symphony of sparks and glowing light. Malakar, though ruthless and powerful, was no match for Arion's newfound strength. For a moment, it seemed as though Malakar would prevail. His strikes were swift, his rage palpable, but Arion's movements were fluid, his instincts guided by the cosmic force within him. They fought with everything they had, the very fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. Then, in the heat of their duel, Arion made his final wish. Not for more power. Not for revenge. but for something far greater justice. With those words, the Celestian Core responded as though it had been waiting for this moment. The very fabric of the universe seemed to tear open as a surge of cosmic energy erupted from the core, bathing the command bridge in blinding light. Malakar, the warlord who had sought to control the galaxy, was consumed by the fury of the core. His form disintegrated, reduced to nothing but ash and dust, scattering into the void. With Malakar's death, the Syndicate's iron grip on the Arion arm shattered. The oppressed worlds that had long been crushed beneath its bouthiel rose in defiance, their chains broken, their spirits emboldened. No longer would they live in fear of the Syndicate's power. Arion's soul was no longer a scavenger. He was no longer a prisoner. He was a legend. A symbol of hope, defiance, and the unyielding will of the oppressed. His name would be whispered across the stars for generations to come, a reminder that even the smallest spark could ignite a fire that would change the universe forever. And as the flames of revolution spread, Arion knew one thing for certain: this was just the beginning. With the Syndicate's chains broken, the rebellion celebrated their newfound freedom. The galaxy whispered Arion's name, a symbol of hope among the ruins of tyranny. Yet, as he stood on the deck of his newly acquired starship, staring into the endless void, he knew his journey was far from over. For in the depths of the cosmos, where darkness still lurked, new threats were waiting. And Arion's soul, wielder of the Celestian Core, would be there to face them. End transmission. For now. If you ever find a glowing ancient artifact, maybe don't grab it right away. Just saying.